Johnson. He's the owner of DT Analytics, a former Department of Homeland Security analyst. He wrote the controversial, or participated in writing the controversial 2009 report, Right-Wing Extremism, Current Economic and Political Climate Fueling Resurgence and Radicalization and Recruitment. He's the author of Right-Wing Resurgence, How a Domestic Terrorist Threat is Being Ignored. His website, dtanalytics.org. You can tweet him at dtanalytics. Witter, W-I-T-T-E-R. Daryl, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks for joining us. So why isn't Donald Trump's, first of all, is it true that Donald Trump's Homeland Security Department is not monitoring right-wing terrorists?
That is true. When I left back in 2010, they had one lone analyst looking at domestic right-wing extremism, and now they have none. Why
would that be?
Well, as you saw in the controversial report I wrote back in 2009, this is a political minefield, this topic. There's a lot of people that align themselves that are sympathetic to some of the white nationalist, anti-government groups. And so I just think Homeland Security takes a risk-averse approach. They don't want any more political firestorm directed their way.
So your report back in 2009, is that the, am I misremembering? I thought the FBI had issued a report on right-wing extremism that the Obama administration, that followed by almost a year a report on radicalized Muslim terrorism. And that report, when it came out in the early months of the Obama presidency, he basically had to walk it back and stuff it because of the explosion on Fox right-wing, Fox so-called news and right-wing hate radio. Are those the same reports, or are these separate reports, or enlighten me, please?
That's my report. It was produced under Homeland Security. Janet Napolitano was the secretary at the time, so the FBI didn't have any role in that report. It's just purely a Homeland Security report.
I see. Okay, I was conflating Homeland Security and FBI in my head. So essentially, what is the situation right now, Daryl, with regard to right-wing extremism in the United States? How dangerous is this, or are we overly concerned about just a small group of fundamentalists who have largely always been with us, like the old John Birch Society back in the 50s?
Yeah, so what we're talking about is from 2008 until 2016, we had a steady increase in these groups and their activities, and even the violent attacks. And so typically during Republican administrations, we see the far right dial back on its activities, and the membership goes down because they don't have these fears of gun confiscations or gun laws being passed, or rights being extended to minority groups like you may have under Democratic administration. So typically we see a dial back, but under the Trump administration, we've actually seen these groups continue to operate at a heightened level and continue to conduct violent attacks. And so it kind of goes against the trends that we've seen over the past 5 decades.
I read a report or an article a couple of days ago that said that since 2008, the majority of terrorist attacks inside the United States, the absolute majority, every year since 2008, the absolute majority of terrorist attacks inside the United States have been conducted by white nationalists or white right-wing extremists. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. And America's, image when they talk terrorism, they always think it's someone with dark skin that has a Arab-sounding name, that subscribes to, radical interpretations of Islam. They don't realize we've got white terrorists here in America that are born and bred within.
Yeah. So, wow. What do we do, Daryl? We're talking to Daryl Johnson, the owner of DT Analytics, former Department of Homeland Security analyst, the guy who wrote that 2009 report on right-wing extremism. What do we do?
So at a federal level, there needs to be more resources devoted to analyzing and combating the threat. They also need to conduct more training of state and local law enforcement so they can become more aware of these groups and their violent beliefs. On a local level, or at a community or individual level, we need to combat this hatred with love. We need to care for our fellow man. If we have a family member that's subscribing to these extremist beliefs, we need to challenge it in a loving way, or dismiss it in a kind of a humorous way. So rather than letting this hatred fester to the point where someone gets frustrated enough that they go out and hurt somebody, we need to embrace these people and talk them away from these extremist beliefs and try to include them in the mainstream society.
That's a remarkable statement to hear from a former DHS, Department of Homeland Security analyst, that we need to respond to hate with love. It is so spot on. And rather than getting all jacked up and responding to hate with hate, Daryl Johnson, you're doing God's work, sir. Thank you so much for dropping by today and sharing your observations with us.
I really appreciate it, and happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everybody.
Thank you. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas to you too, Daryl. Thanks so much for being with us. It's great talking with you. A remarkable guy doing some just extraordinary work out there, and somebody that we all need to be listening to.